that at that time when they all came back to get jobs, you got whatever you could find, and you were looking for housing because there'd been no housing built and there was no place to live. But my husband, when he got released from the service, hitchhiked home and stopped by the local public housing and signed up for an apartment for us. I was living with my family. I had come home to Seattle. And then we were there for a little bit, and then we found a place to live, and it wasn't long till we had housing in the housing market. Now by that time we'd been married almost 4 years, and our son was 1 year old and didn't like this man that came to live with us.
Because he had been living at the farm with all kinds of doting aunts and uncles and grandparents. And all of a sudden he had to go live in another house with Mom and this man.
This man.
And that really for my husband. He couldn't understand why Tom didn't want him to touch him or come near him. And I said, all you have to do is to pay no attention to him. Just live around here like you didn't notice he was even here. And that's how we settled that problem. And I later found a friend of ours who lived in the same community. Exactly the same thing happened to her daughter. Her daughter was same age as Tom, and she didn't want her father when he came home either. That was a very, very different time for adjustment. But we got along just fine, and then we had lived in Seattle, and we built our house in stages, just like everybody did then. You built something, and then you kept fixing it up a little better, especially the interior. The outside you tried to get look presentable right away, but the interior you finished off as you got the money. And it was a hard time because there weren't many jobs and wages weren't very good. $5 an hour was high wages in those days for ordinary workers. And actually, maybe food was cheaper, and clothing and things, but lots of things were almost as much those days as they were later. But anyway, we lived like that, and then we bought, while my husband had been in the service, I went looking around for lots to build a house on, and I bought one at tax title. And that
How much
house,
did you pay for the lot?
$100 for our lot. And I thought that was a good buy, so I bought another one. I bought two of them. I could afford that on the money I was able to get together. And so we had two lots, and then it was on a small street. Very, very good real estate. Later become quite good. And we built our house, and we lived there. I am still living in the same house now that he and I built when he came home from World War II.
That is amazing.
And I like it. I don't want to move.
You like it?
I like it very much. I don't want to move. I like my neighborhood.
Yes.
And I like my house, and I like my community. And it's really does a lot for you when you live in a community where you've been for years and years and know the history of it. When looking for a lot, I wanted to be close to a bus line, so you could always go to town without a car. I wanted to be close to a school, and that was possible. And it was nice, and so that made it great. And both my son and daughter could walk up to school on their own about 4 blocks from home. And they went the first 6 years that way. And that's really nice for small children. Let's see, what else?
And the daughter is
Jane.
Jane, who is here
Yes,
today
that's
helping
right.
with the interview. And the other assistant is Evie Elliott, who is asking some questions as well.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the principal.
Well, I don't know what else to say. Now,
Well, I think we were going to hear a little bit about like life maybe at the farm. What was that like?
Where you grew up.
Growing up.
growing up on a farm. Oh, I see.
The kitchen table or the dinner table.
We know that you you dried the dishes at 6 years old.
Well, what about the air? You often commented that all the men smoked, your brothers and your dad.
Yes,
The air was blue in the room.
yeah. In those, well, that's true. Now let's see, where can I fit this in? Going back to my life at home, there were 8 of us, 8 children and 2 adults, and later my uncle came to live with us too, and that made a big family. And my brothers, 3 of my brothers, they were equally divided, 4 girls, 4 boys. 3 of my brothers smoked, and my dad smoked. And the amazing thing, I've always wanted to say this about that smoking, no matter what happened, if you ran out of the cigarettes, you had to stop everything and go to the store for them. The store might be 5 miles away, but that's all right. You might get along without other things, but you had to go for those cigarettes.
Did your dad encourage your brothers to smoke?
My dad smoked first, and they were just following my dad's example.
How old were they when they started smoking?
Oh,
Teenagers?
maybe 18. They didn't smoke real young.
Okay.
And one brother stopped entirely, and later just smoked a pipe. He quit smoking and went to World War II, and then there's nothing to do in the trenches,
Right.
so you smoke. And so when he came from there, he took up a pipe, and that's much better than cigarettes because you only have you smoke a bit. You don't smoke all the time. And during mentioning that time of smoking, up at the time, till the time of World War II, women really didn't, if women smoked, you didn't know about it. Well, when I was getting my first job, the young girls I was working with said, don't you want to start smoking and be, like the rest of the young girls? And I said, no, I don't want to do that. And why? And well, I had 2 reasons. 1, it costs quite a bit of money.
Mm-hmm.
And 2, it's a big nuisance having to always go and get tobacco. If you don't have it, you have to go get it. And I thought I'm not going to do that. And I did not. I never started. I didn't want to. And actually, I had gone through high school thinking I was going to go on and become a primary school teacher. Well, when you got through high school, there was no money. You couldn't go up and be a primary school teacher. So you did, like I said, the next best thing. Took care of children or picked berries or did whatever you could find to do. And so at that point, I learned to type. And one of my first jobs was, I read in the paper about they were looking for help in the office, so I went there and said, well, I'm not a very good typist, but I can do something. I can file. And so I started working there, and that's the way I did the rest of my life, as a typist for companies.